Hey, our Combine coverage 2022 continues. JJ Stankevitz, I'm Matt Taylor on Radio Row, and we are joined now by the awesome Cynthia Frelund, NFL Network analyst who does so much, and you are so good at your job. We're all big fans as we watch the NFL Network very, very religiously throughout the Colts season. Welcome to Indianapolis. What do you think of everything that's back to normal, so to speak?
I'm so glad it's back to normal. I definitely, this is my favorite event of the year, and that includes the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl is always like very fun and awesome, but you get to see every team here, and everyone's 0-0. We're all like,
right.
It's all restarting, and
hope.
I love all the hope. And I love all the. This is the last time these draft prospects are nice. Like they turn into heroes. Like they're so weird after this, but they're like nice.
Like the innocence is gone after this, right?
But they're so sweet. They walk around and they're like, "Ma'am," I'm like, "Listen, call us all Miss. Even if you think I look really old, call me Miss. Doesn't matter. Like all of us." So it's just so like it's my favorite part of football. It is absolutely my favorite. Like. And I'm glad it's back, and I love Indianapolis. It's
just
fun.
like a big convention. You can talk about football with everyone.
Just talk about football with everyone.
And we get to talk about football with you. I want to start as we kind of look at the Colts and what direction they might be going. But I want to drill down on something here. I know you have a very good analytics background, and that's something that you do really well at NFL Network. I want to throw something out at you. The Colts in 2021, they ran more plays on fourth down, run and pass plays, than the Detroit Lions ran more plays between the first and third quarter on fourth down.
They had to. It's a difference.
Right.
You chose to. They had to.
Exactly.
So a little different.
So Frank Reich's willingness to go for it on fourth down, and by the way, convert about 70% of those.
Yep.
Analytically, that decision to go for it on fourth down seems to be really taking hold around the NFL. How do you see do you see the Colts kind of being at the top of that trend of kind of being ahead of the game on that front?
So I think there's two things going on, right? The first thing is that there are teams who, before games start and before, they're saying, we are a team that goes for it on fourth down. I believe that the Chargers did this. If you were to ask the Chargers, I believe they said, our identity is going to be aggressive. And it started off working really well because people weren't expecting it. But then the problem is they didn't adapt later on when people were onto them. Right, they were onto them. They were not the personnel. Their tell. They only had this many plays in the playbook for that. And so, what I like about what the Colts are doing is that they're being very situationally aware. Meaning, they didn't empty they didn't show us the entire playbook of fourth down plays right in the beginning of the season and then just say we're just going to keep doing this. They strategically peppered them in. They did not start as the team who was coming in going for it the more on fourth. So to me, they're actually doing it the right way, meaning they're using the strategy and the situation that they're seeing in the game in order to make that decision when it matters. Like you obviously would like to make it with your neutral brain, but then if you're in the heat of the moment and whatever, and I think Brandon Staley was like, this is our identity, as opposed to the Colts were like, yeah, our identity is when it makes sense, we're going to do it. But if it doesn't, we're not. We're not just doing it to do it.
There's all that discourse about the Chargers, and by the way, the Chargers converted 47% of their fourth down
if
tries.
If you look at the beginning, they started off converting like 80. So it was like up to almost 80%, I think, at one. And then people because it was just like they had tells. Right? It was too much of their – but I do think overall in the league, teams are practicing fourth down situations and communicating to their players so that it's not like, hey, we're down by 21 points and we're just going to, like, go for it because we have to. Like, I think teams are like, no, we're going to strategically – this is when it's going to matter and this is the play we're going to do and because we believe in this. And they're reframing it so that it's a positive and not a, like, desperation, ankle bite. What is it, kneecap biting? Was it?
Yeah.
With Dan Campbell?
In Detroit, yeah.
We're
biting kneecaps.
I wanted to use this as a jumping off point, though, to ask you, what do you think of Frank Reich?
I really like Frank Reich. I think I think all coaches, and I say this with lots of love, super boring at pressers. Like, I'm like, can we stop? Like, because they're not going to say anything to you. And Frank's, like, such a professional. Like, he has such a good poker face. Like, you kind of can't even tell when he's rattled. Like, he must be rattled at some point. But it's kind of like, boring answer number one. Boring answer number two. And he does it so well. Like, that is what he's supposed to be. Like, he's doing his job, but it's boring for us. So I appreciate his boringness, and I appreciate when I track him and map his play calling and decision making. I feel like he's one of those coaches that empowers his player. It feels as though there's no like punitive, like you're out of this for this. Like it doesn't feel like that because you can track those things, right? And he seems to be a person who make smart decisions with a very consistent
Right.
basis. So I'm a big fan. I just wish he would. I want to like get him drunk and see what he'd really say. Like be like, take some truth serum here. I want to know like, what do you think of this? Like,
Yeah, you probably have a better chance with the truth serum than you do the alcohol.
I know,
with
but
Frank.
you know what I'm saying.
Yeah,
like I'm not
absolutely.
suggesting he become like. My point is that I would like him to. I bet you in his like the conversations I've had with him that are like a bit more off the record, he's a little looser and more fun. I just wish he would be like come out and just
he
be like
is.
super crazy.
He
like
is.
just like tell us that like what do you want to try? Like what's your favorite play in the playbook? They all say kneel down victory formation, right? Like because that's but like other than that, like tell me what the next favorite play is, you know?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Well, I mean, the Colts, towards the end of the season, they wanted to be more balanced than they were, but obviously they became very run-centered, run-centric with Jonathan Taylor. I mean, he was routinely over 20 carries the last half of the season.
Do you feel like a special like connection to him because of your last name? Like maybe.
I do.
Okay, good.
I do, actually. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It makes sense to
It's
me.
a special club.
It
you
is
know?
obviously the Taylor Club, you know?
But no, I mean, obviously, it's hard to justify taking carries away from Jonathan Taylor because he makes yards when oftentimes there are no yards to be made. But what did you make analytically, again, of the Colts being sort of run dominated in the last half of the season?
You know, it's a luxury to be able to be run dominated because often, you know, the way that games go, you can't. Like some people who would like to run more, they don't have the running back that consistently can earn those yards after. Even if you have a great O-line. Like ask the Cowboys. They had a pretty good O-line a couple years ago, and they couldn't get any yards after contact anyways, right? So it shows how special Jonathan Taylor. So you have to acknowledge the things that your player does disproportionately well. Absolutely. And keep going with those things. So I think it's a testament to Jonathan Taylor and the O-line. And also everyone knew the Colts were going to run, and they still were effective with it.
Yeah.
Like, no one was tricked. No one was like, they're going to pass. Nope, they're going to run.
Right.
You know, like, and so it just shows you that run strategy was effective and working. And like I said, a lot of teams would have loved that luxury. So I'm not an analytics person that's like, don't run. Running backs have no value. I don't think that's true at all. I don't think you should overpay any player at any position, ever. Just don't, because it's a lot easier to win if you have more good players. Math, right? But right, like
Makes
more
sense.
good players, you win more. So
Right.
you know, it's interesting. You know, I think you're just showing the value of a Jonathan Taylor. Like that to me was a testament to him.
But towards the end of the season, teams were crowding the box. I mean, you know,
Yep.
the Raiders made no bones about it. You're not going to run the ball on us that day. Were you surprised the Colts didn't take more of an advantage in the passing game outside the numbers towards the end?
I believe there was probably a reason for it. So I don't, you know, I never can watch a game because now that I know the people and what it takes to figure this out, like we never know. Like just because someone's playing in a game doesn't mean they're 100% healthy. Doesn't mean, you know, you're never, when's 100%? I don't know. Like it's not like video games where you have like you're 80% charged. You know, we don't know, right? So I would imagine there was a reason for it. Of course, I would have liked to see them take more chances outside the numbers and deep because first of all, that's really fun. Like we all, who doesn't like fun?
Football.
But it's something was probably not. There was a reason for it. I don't think these people are like, you know what? I'm just going to do something that doesn't work and keep doing it. And see if it suddenly starts working.
I once had a player tell me when I asked him, it was maybe week 13 or 14, like, all right, you know, are you back to 100%? And he's like, what are you talking about? It's week 14. No one's 100%.
No one's
that
100%.
doesn't exist.
No.
No. When you think about, though, kind of how the Colts season ended, how do you square the quarterback performance with how the season ended, and then also kind of taking a larger view of the whole season?
I'm a banker, so I make. You know, I think some people come from a more of a really true statistics background, and I went to school. I have grades in those classes that are good, but like I need to make decisions with time in mind. So when I look at the situation, I believe that you have a better than average quarterback, but life is about time, and if the sunk costs can't consider them. So if this is not the right decision going forward and you can't get the ultimate wins, by the way, this is probably a good time to keep capitalizing in this division because I'm questioning the Jags, big questions for the Texans, and that's 2 of 4 teams. So get that. And the AFC is super hard. Look at the difference between can you just move to the NFC for a year? Because honestly,
there's two good teams in the NFC, right?
Look at the quarterbacks, and if Aaron Rodgers somehow randomly bails for an AFC team, maybe you have Russell Wilson. Maybe
Kyler Murray could leave. I mean,
there's so many. There are not a lot of great quarterbacks in the NFC compared to the it's just true, and it's interesting because you got to kind of capitalize on those situations. So I think I'm very interested to see how free agency goes, because there's a lot of players on your team that I really, really like. I think are underrated nationally. Obviously, I cover the whole league, so we don't. And then Hard Knocks made people a bit more familiar with the team just overall. But I think people understand how special Darius Leonard is, but there are many other players on the team too that are quite special that we don't talk about. So this is a team that maybe is a quarterback away from and I don't know, maybe that's controversial, but if you believe it's sunk cost, if it is not their decision, if it is not where they want to go, then move forward, because you don't get a big window to win a Super Bowl at all.
Well, you're talking about some fascinating things, and I know you got to run because you have an incredibly busy day today. But wrapping up here, I'd like to talk about you, because you are very, as you said, you've got the background in statistics and analytics and numbers, and obviously your financials and things like that. So you're very, very bright. When did you start to combine that with football, and when did you think, hey, I can make a career out of this? I can do both.
So when I was in business school, so I started business school 2008 was my summer, and I spent that summer at the league office. I cold emailed the CFO of the NFL. He had come from Goldman Sachs, and I had read his equity research. His name is Anthony Noto. He's now at SoFi. It all comes full circle, right? SoFi Stadium was a Super Bowl. It's crazy. Yeah. So long story short, I had cold emailed him, asked him for a job during business school, and in that job, one of the projects I worked on was season inventory restructuring. How many games is the right number, and then preseason. We needed the objectives in mind are to keep more teams playoff eligible for longer, because that drives television ratings, and television ratings is how we the major source of our revenue for this industry. So we need to put the best product on the field, because we need to have more close games. Parity is what makes our league so special. It is very true, and that parity then leads to more competitive games, leads to more playoff potential.
Sure.
And we
more fan bases interested longer.
Exactly. And I literally sat with the competition committee, and I did not ever know that you could make a job out of watching film and making it. The coaches, you eat snacks. It's fun, and they have so much. They're passionate about it, and sometimes they're they're fun, big.
Have you always loved football though?
I love football. I grew up in East Lansing, Michigan, so I grew up in Michigan State, Spartan country. I didn't go there, but I went to BC and then Northwestern, so not quite the same. But I was there during Matt Ryan years, so it was good for me. It was good for me. But I always loved football, and I loved doing those things and mapping one to the other, and I kind of realized I could make a career out of it then.
Pretty cool.
Random, right?
No.
Don't take my path. I don't know how the whole rest of the broadcast part came in really weird ways, but you start where you start.
Absolutely, and it's working out incredibly well. Very, very fascinating chat. I wish we could do it longer, but I know you got to run. But thank you so much for your time.
I'll come back anytime. We'll do off-season chat one more time for sure. Thanks for having me.